What is up, A-Team? Welcome back. AuzSOME here. Hope everyone's having an awesome day. So yes, I want to talk more about the crypto summit that happened yesterday, which was Friday, and talk more about the frustrations that happened there. And there's finally some news coming out as to what was talked about and really what was pushed inside this meeting. One of the great things that was actually pushed out here, and again, you guys all saw that Michael Saylor was there. Michael Saylor was in the front row, and there's actually some pretty funny clips of him taking photos of the trophy and all that stuff. But put that all aside, I do have to say that he presented a pretty good plan for the U.S. Bitcoin reserve here, because his plan actually, or what he was trying to sell Trump on, was that here in the next decade, the U.S. could actually have anywhere from 60 to 100 trillion dollars in wealth. And he put together this plan, and it's kind of interesting. But I think a lot of the good things were said about this, and what's going to happen is what Trump. I don't know what Trump's going to do. I don't think a lot of us know with the executive orders that were put out there, knowing that we're not going to be purchasing any Bitcoin at this time, to try to get to the levels of what Michael Saylor put out here, 25%. That means that the United States would have to acquire 25% of all Bitcoin, which is a lot. You got to think, even Michael Saylor's MicroStrategies is at 2.5%. So to accumulate 25% is 10 times basically what MicroStrategy owns. So it is kind of crazy, but he did put together this 34-page document, and he actually went over this with Trump at the White House, according to what Michael Saylor said here. And he said Saylor told Trump that if the U.S. started buying Bitcoin right now, it could generate anywhere from 16 to 81 trillion in wealth for the Treasury by 2045. It said within that time frame, this could bring in over 10 trillion per year, all without selling a single Bitcoin. And as you guys know, obviously Michael Saylor has done really good leveraging Bitcoin with MicroStrategies and using MicroStrategies to leverage Bitcoin. It's been quite the phenomenon, actually. Some people are kind of against that. They think that it's kind of a grift, but he's done a very, very good job doing that. It also says right here that Saylor told Trump that the U.S. must immediately start accumulating Bitcoin through a consistent daily purchase strategy. And although this contradicts exactly what the White House said, in that they weren't going to accumulate any more Bitcoin, this actually isn't that bad of an idea to put together a daily purchase strategy. There is on X out there, someone actually was putting together a clip or a montage of someone who purchased Bitcoin. I think they were purchasing like $10 of Bitcoin every day for like the last 10 years. And this guy literally is worth millions, hundreds of millions of dollars now. It's pretty remarkable. He actually screenshotted all his stuff and put this montage together, and you can see all his daily purchases, and now what it's worth is absolutely insane. So it is something that you could think about, is that this daily purchase could do really good. However, he says the goal of all this, Michael Saylor says the goal of all this would be control anywhere from 5 to 25% of the total Bitcoin supply before 2035. It says when 99% of all Bitcoin will have then been mined. So you got to think that's a ton. 99% of all Bitcoin mined, and you're going to hold anywhere from 5 to 25% of the supply before 2035. That's pretty crazy. That's actually quite a bit of money to put into this fund, if you really start to think about it. And on top of that, you're going to be competing with a lot of these other countries, right? Other countries are going to start doing this. You don't think China actually owns more Bitcoin than the United States at this point? They actually almost double the amount of Bitcoin that the United States owns. There was an article that was put out there yesterday talking about how China owns literally almost double what the United States owns. So you can see China's already ahead of the United States in terms of having more Bitcoin. I'm sure Russia probably has a ton of Bitcoin out there, even though they don't announce it or it's not public. I'm sure there's probably a lot of people out there that hold Bitcoin. And then on top of that, you have countries like North Korea, who literally just put together a $100 billion heist in stealing Ethereum and transferred over to Bitcoin. So you have North Korea out here who holds more Bitcoin and probably more crypto assets than that of the United States government, which is kind of crazy if you think about that. But it says right here, once locked in, the Bitcoin fixed supply and long-term price appreciation would turn the reserve into a wealth engine. It says the race to dominate the cyberspace has already started. If we don't lead, someone else will, which we already know that with North Korea owning a crap ton. We already know that with China and probably Russia. It says if the U.S. wants to remain a global financial superpowerhouse, it must own Bitcoin in massive quantities. And that's no different than owning gold, right? We own gold in massive quantities. How do you think that we became one of the richest nations in the world? We were on the gold standard for the longest time. Although we're going to start looking for Fort Knox and see if we actually still have the gold. But we do know that gold was obviously the number one thing to show wealth, which is why we created Fort Knox in the first place and why we actually owned the most gold in the entire world, which is right there in Fort Knox, supposedly. But it says right here, he did talk about China, he did talk about everything like that, but he also said that he needs to make it very clear that the United States government should never sell its Bitcoin holdings ever. Even if they acquire it, it should never be sold. The plan is simple: buy, hold, repeat. As the supply of new Bitcoin dries up over time, demand will skyrocket, prices will climb, and the U.S. Treasury will be sitting on a gold mine. This is literally the strategy that he put out there, and this is kind of what he believes, right? I mean, he's been on multiple podcasts, he's been on all the news outlets. He's talked about this at scale, right? At massive scale. And it's super interesting when you hear Michael Saylor actually talk about this kind of stuff, because it actually gets you excited about Bitcoin. And again, when I first got into crypto, back in 2018, you sort of start to wonder, you start to think about Bitcoin, you start to think about all this kind of stuff, but Bitcoin was always one of those where it was man, it's kind of expensive, how much Bitcoin should I own? But over time, you start to realize the value of Bitcoin. You really do start to realize the value of Bitcoin. And when you start to hear people like Saylor talk about it, you can understand why Bitcoin maxis are actually out there, because this is a theory that they truly believe in. They truly believe that as long as you hold and you repeat and you continue to buy and the Bitcoin dries up, you're going to have massive wealth because of that. And so far, Bitcoin has actually shown to do that, right? I mean, Bitcoin has continually gone up in price. It's been the best returning asset in the global market right now. I mean, you can go back and look at all the data out there. It's been phenomenal. So here we are. And he also suggests a new financial system for the American Bitcoin economy. And we don't have to go into all this, but he does believe that there needs to be corporations that are backing this asset. He believes that there needs to be tokenized stocks and bonds. He believes that the US dollar needs to be backing stable coins by American companies. And he believes that digital commodities such as Bitcoin will be designed for wealth preservatives and long-term value storage. So he goes into a really, really good details on this. But really, the whole framework of this is basically saying that if we stick to this plan of doing this as the United States government, we'll add 60 to 100 trillion to the U.S. economy by the end of this decade. We're talking the end of this decade, so roughly around 2030. And that's kind of wild when you think about that. His breakdown is 10 trillion from tokens, 20 trillion from digital securities, 10 trillion from stablecoins, and 20 trillion from Bitcoin. So again, he's not just focusing on just Bitcoin in this, he's also looking at other digital securities as well. So this is where I like Michael Saylor's strategy, because although he is a Bitcoin maxi and he's Bitcoin through and through, you can see that he came to the table here not just to talk about Bitcoin. He came to talk about the entire digital currency market. And that's where I actually kind of fell in love with Saylor when he presented this, when I actually read this yesterday, because as much as he's been on the side of only Bitcoin, he's actually opening up and saying that, hey, we got to look at this from a bigger picture here and actually add other digital securities here, actually add stable coins here and other tokens, right? We're not talking coins, we're talking tokens. And I was like, dude, this is great. This is exactly what you want to hear, because you have a lot of other people out there that attack the cryptocurrency market. I'm not going to go name them, but you guys know who they are. They go out there and they attack, you have Bitcoin maxis that attack all the other cryptocurrencies. You have people here who are, building, cryptocurrencies and altcoins that attack Bitcoin and vice versa. And it's like, I'd like us all to come together and actually just try to win together. But unfortunately, that seems to be really hard here in America. So, but one other thing that came out here that I thought was great too was that he said that there needs to be an immediate end to the hostile policies here. And this actually was discussed. You could hear from everyone that came and talked about this, from Brian Armstrong. You got the Gemini twins that came out here. And really what they came out and said were that it was good to sort of see that we're actually going to allow the technology, we're going to allow crypto to actually grow. As you guys know, Biden was very restrictive on the growth of crypto, very restrictive on the growth of the technology, and they've basically cut the red tape on that. And so it says right here that they need to stop unfair taxation on Bitcoin mining and crypto transaction, which I think is perfect, right? We talk about this, like, let's not do capital gains on crypto. That was what we were hoping for yesterday. It didn't happen, but I agree with Saylor on this. Force banks to accept crypto businesses. I think this is great. As you guys know, that's a really hard thing to do in this space. But now we're starting to see that banks are becoming a little bit more receptive to that, and that's a very positive thing. Also, it says give U.S. companies the freedom to issue digital assets without endless regulatory roadblocks. This would be great. I mean, you know right now that we're already starting to do that. You can see that with all the meme coins out there. You have companies out here that are doing a lot of things now. You got Coinbase coming out here. Look at Binance, right? Binance actually listed BNB. They have BNB. You got all these things that can happen, but to be able to tokenize digital assets, Ripple, XRP, right? Those kind of things would actually probably help a lot of these companies grow. And it says let digital assets move freely over the internet. The government should not interfere with crypto transactions. A big one of those is let's just take Tornado Cash. Obviously, that's a scrambler. Obviously, people put a lot of money through there. You guys know that it was for nefarious businesses and things like that. But again, you should allow this to be used freely. There should be no restrictions on it. Decentralization is the key. People should have the chance to hold their money, be the self-custodian of their money, and not be to where like Coinbase and or Binance, you have to put it through Binance and them to actually offload it into your bank account, right? Where it becomes super centralized. Allow us to be able to offload our crypto from a non-custodial wallet directly to our bank account. You know how amazing that would be versus having to send it to a centralized exchange that's tracking everything. I just don't like that. So I agree with him to allow us to move it freely and allow us to where the government should not interfere with any of our transactions. And I 100% agree with that. And so this is probably one of the best things that Michael Saylor has done in a long time from my perspective. I mean, he's been out there, he's been a big voice for Bitcoin. But to see that he's actually put so much detail into this and a lot of what he proposed on Trump, I'm actually like 100% supportive of. I think that that's exactly what we should be doing. I was reading through this and I'm like, dude, this is exactly what we should be doing. I mean, his vision's actually right on point here. You might not like Michael Saylor, you might have your own reasons and all that kind of stuff, but when you're looking at this, he's the only one that came to the table with what looked like a clear vision as to how we could actually accumulate wealth and actually grow to over $100 trillion in wealth as a country. Why would we not do that? So this would be super, super interesting to sort of see what the U.S. is going to do, what Trump is going to do, because we do know that you're going to have to own a significant portion of cryptocurrencies to become the superpower that Trump is trying to become. But again, this is going to be very, very interesting to sort of see how this plays out. So you're going to be competing with Russia, China, South Korea, or North Korea, all these other countries out here who have accumulated a ton of these cryptos. You're going to be, competing with other countries that already started, accumulating Bitcoin way before we were. So this will be very interesting. I'm excited to sort of see where it comes out of right here. But this is the biggest thing I'm going to say to you, and this is why you should go hold as much Bitcoin as possible. Again, you might not like Bitcoin. You might think that Bitcoin is whatever you might think of, but it doesn't matter because we do know that the United States government is going to be moving forward with Bitcoin. And if they actually stick to Michael Saylor's strategy, the Bitcoin that you're going to be holding could be worth a lot more than it is today. It's right now sitting around $86,000 per Bitcoin. I'll put it right over here. $86,000 at the time of this filming, down roughly 2.5%. This thing has continually grown over the years. And if we're talking about 100 trillion, this thing can actually be worth $10 million per Bitcoin. That's the goal. That is Michael Saylor's goal, is to have one Bitcoin worth $10 million. And you'll be looking back. If that actually happens, you'll be looking back and going, wow, I could have got this for $86,000. Just like the people who could have bought Bitcoin for $500 are looking back going, crap, it's sitting at $86,000. So don't be that person. That's all I got to say. Do not be that person. But with all that, let me know your thoughts down below. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. And with all that said, we're out. Peace out, everyone.